Here we go. Right then. Hello and welcome to the Top Corner Podcast episode number 28. As always, joining me, we have Kieran D, Kieran L, and Rowan. How are we all doing today?
Doing great, you?
I'm
not too bad. Not too bad.
Episode 28.
We're flying through them. I say it every week. I like to say it's the usual thing. We're flying through them.
I realised this. Sorry, I realised this yesterday. We're on episode 19 next week for the wrestling podcast. Genuinely, 19 weeks has gone too quick.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because we took that little break where Christmas was, so we probably would have been up to episode 33, 34 had we not took the break. But we're absolutely flying through them. We've already got a comment. We've got Kieran James Dillon in the chat. He says, "Hey guys, I'm here." Hi, Kieran. Right. Yeah, he's all good. You're right. But Bernaldo's here. He says, "Rowan." I think he's doing a Scooby Doo impression.
Rowan.
Oh, Reggie.
That was awful.
we'll skip over that. Please. We'll not acknowledge that. How are we doing, Bernaldo? Welcome in. I hope you're all good, buddy. But today we've got a lot to talk through because, of course, we are now getting towards crunch time. A sigh of depression there for Kieran D because the Premier League's still not back yet.
That wasn't me.
It was me.
It was Rowan.
I think that was my shitty, shaggy Scooby impression. I can do it better.
Oh, Reese is in the building. How are we doing, lad? Welcome. You're good, man. But yeah, no, we've got some big things to talk about today. Of course, there's a lot of leagues now starting to come back. We're going to talk about those in a very brief moment. We're going to talk through last week's results, of course. We've talked about the Bundesliga. And then, of course, it's the La Liga special because, of course, the Liga is now officially back as of this week with the first fixture being played tomorrow night, which we'll be talking about that very, very shortly. But I think the first thing I wanted to talk about, which is the main kind of topic of today's, of course, some of the big leagues that are now starting to come back. You'll have heard yesterday towards the lower end of the divisions of English football that League Two and League One have now decided to formally finish, which means that the mighty Millers get in. But that does include the likes of Plymouth Argyle, Swindon Town, Coventry City from the respective two leagues going up as well. But in terms of the leagues that are actually coming back, the Championship is coming back. Now, we have a certain one of us in the building that follows a Championship club. Fulham's match against Brentford is supposed to be the first scheduled match that is supposed to be played on the 20th of June. Of course, there's been no fixtures played since the 8th of March. That's supposed to be a 12:30 kickoff. And then the next game after that is supposed to be Leeds versus Cardiff. The full revised Championship schedule was released on Monday. A couple of the fixtures have been announced for television. And then they're aiming for the playoff fixtures to be played 2nd or 3rd of August with a potential date of the 2nd or 3rd of August, to be used for the final. Now, Chris is in as well. How are we doing, Chris? Welcome to the stream. Reese has very quickly said before I go on to the point I was going to say, where are the other face cams? No commitment. Appalling.
I don't have a webcam.
Give me two. Let me doll myself up, put my makeup on, and I'll be here.
Well, the point I was going to...
When Viva La Accommodation comes in, I'll get a webcam.
I will not.
If anybody's watching, pay Rowan up now. So in terms of the point I was going to make with the Championship, we talked about it before. How excited are we for the Championship to come back? Because, of course, we've got a couple of teams towards the top end of the table that are still fighting. Not really for the top two. They're starting to fly away with things. But let me get very quickly the table up so you guys can actually see, because it's been quite a while since we've seen what's been going on with the Championship. But as you can see here right now, of course, Leeds are top on 71 points. West Brom is second on 70 points. You kind of look around that playoff spot. You've got Fulham on 64. You've got Brentford, Forest, Preston, Bristol, even Millwall, Cardiff, Blackburn, Swansea. They're still within a shout for kind of like that final one or two playoff spots. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when it comes back. How excited are we all for the Championship to be coming back?
I mean, it's good because Leeds can finally Leeds and West Brom can say they did it properly, if that makes sense. But,
How hilarious would it be?
League Two's finished, so...
How hilarious would it be if Leeds didn't go up?
I mean, it's possible, isn't it?
Just imagine the actual the faces of the fans, and they've played Fulham, which is obviously a massive game.
Yeah, they've got Cardiff, Fulham, Luton, Blackburn, Stoke, Barnsley, Swansea, Derby, and Charlton left. So there's quite a lot of teams towards the lower end of the table, but you've still got your Swanseas and your Fulhams, as Kieran said, that's still fighting.
Those teams towards the bottom, though, they'll be still fighting to stay up, won't they? Really?
Well, that's the thing. If we move towards the bottom of the table, if we get rid of that there. We've got Barnsley at the bottom on 34 points. They'll, of course, be swapping. It's the yearly Yorkshire swap between us and Barnsley. So see you next year, Barnsley. You'll be back again and we'll drop down. Luton are on 35 points, of course. But the teams that are still fighting, realistically speaking, you've got Charlton in 22nd on 39 points. Then you've got Hull on 41 points. You've got Wigan on 41 points. Middlesbrough on 41 points. And then you've still got Huddersfield and Stoke. They're kind of all the teams lingering towards the bottom end of the table. Who do you think is going to be the team to stay up, and who do we think is going to go down? Because even realistically now, Charlton could still survive.
Is it 3 down or 4?
3.
As an avid Swansea City fan that I have been for many years, I think I can see Wigan. No. As a Hull fan, I want to stay up, but I look at the 3 teams below us, and legitimately we should be stronger than all 3 of them. Like, if we look on paper, our squad is stronger. Look at Middlesbrough's squad on paper. Their squad is stronger. But for some reason, Stokes... Oh, sorry, dropped my phone. Stokes a prime example of Stoke have been in this relegation fight last year and this year, and their squad's been good enough for quite a long time. It's a bit like everyone thinks they're too good to go down, but in the Championship, you never are too good to go down. So I am worried. I'll admit I really am. Because we looked horrific before the break, and I remember spending time with you, Josh, and talking about it didn't seem to be getting any better. And hopefully this break will make it get better, because the problem was for me, the games we should have won against the teams around us, we lost, and we lost badly. We lost to Huddersfield at home. I think it was the last minute, but that's it. We lost to Stoke. We got destroyed by Stoke, and they're 1 point ahead of us in the league. And we got beat at home to Barnsley, who are at bottom of the league. So, for me, I worry, but I like to believe we have enough just to stay up.
I mean, I'm just looking at the comments right now. Reza said Rowan needs to get an OnlyFans paid for that webcam ASAP. And then Benaldo's put up the whole. Let's have a quick... I don't. Is that?
That's a wolf emoji. That's not a tiger, is it? Oh, it is a tiger.
That's a tiger.
Doesn't look like a tiger, though, is it?
It don't really look like a tiger.
I know you're an aficionado of how tigers stand.
I watch National Geographic.
Let's have a look at Hull's fixtures. So they've got obviously their first game back against Charlton, which importantly, of course, we talked about last week. Charlton are going to be missing one of their star players in Lyle Taylor because he's a pussy. Birmingham. Hull, they've got Middlesbrough. They're not playing themselves. Maybe they play themselves in a friendly. West Brom, Bristol, Millwall. They've got a lot of teams that are fighting towards the playoff spots. Of course, West Brom fighting for the top spot.
It's very... I look at our fixtures. I know we're focusing on us, and I know that's probably very biased because there's... But then again, if we looked at League One, we'd probably focus on Rotherham. But the thing is about our fixture list is if we beat the teams around us, we're safe. And because I think out of them final fixtures, I think half of them were teams in the bottom half of the table and in that bottom section we were talking about. So if we can, but then again, it's one of them. If we lose to Charlton on that first game back, that for me is sirens wailing, emergency, we're probably going down.
Because that's going to be momentum build again.
It's 100%. And of course, injuries as well will play a big part. Just looking at Middlesbrough here, they've got a very, very tricky fixture list. They've got, Swansea, who were fighting for the playoffs. Stoke, who, of course, like Middlesbrough, fighting for survival. So they've got 2 big games there between you and Stoke in the space of pretty much 2 weeks, where if they could pick up 6 points, they might be in a very different position to what they are now. But after that, they've got QPR, who are towards the top half. Millwall, fighting for the playoffs. Bristol, in the playoffs. Reading, not really far up the table, more towards mid-table. Cardiff, mid-table as well. And Sheffield Wednesday, of course, I think aren't doing the most amazing as well. Yeah, they're down in 15th. Then if we look at, let's look at Charlton, for example, who are just one below Hull. They've got QPR, Cardiff, Leeds to play last game of the season, which could be very decisive. But they've also got a game against Wigan in there. Of course, the game that they play against Hull side, which is the first match back. There's some tricky games in there.
One thing I will say is, luckily, when that break happened, all the teams have managed to get back to full fitness, and especially us, because we were playing with one fit centre-back. And that you can barely even win games with one fit centre back, and you can see 5 on a weekly basis apparently with one fit centre back. But you look at them teams about Charlton. I do feel a bit sorry for Charlton because the financial side was screwed. I'll be polite. I won't say a swear word. They were screwed. Then they had that owner, didn't they? And then the owner then I don't know what sort of trouble they got into. I think it was around Christmas time that deal either fell through or the owner didn't have the money they were providing, or they said they were providing. Then Lyle Taylor, your best player, their sole reason for getting promoted and their sole reason for being so successful, goes. And he's saying, I'm not playing because I want to move. So if they stay up, I'd be absolutely amazed. And Lee Bowyer deserves a statue in Charlton.
Of course, one of the issues as well is the crippling debt that Charlton's got. I think that's another one of the reasons why owners don't want to pick them up, just because of the amount of debt that the club's got. If my camera would focus, Benalda's put, who would you guys like to see go up? I would like West Brom and maybe Nottingham Forest. And if somehow Leeds declines to play off, someone else.
I don't want to see Leeds in Premier League, but it just is going to happen.
Leeds, West Brom, Fulham.
Nah, I don't. Fulham bottled it last year when they came up and made all them signs. I wouldn't, if I'm being honest, I'd like to see Forest back in Premier League.
Josh, can you get the table just for 2 seconds again? Just because I want to grasp, because it's been a while since I've been out of the league.
You know what?
So if we look at the table, of course, the top 2 right now are Leeds and West Brom. Leeds leading by 1 point. If we look the other side, Fulham are 4 points ahead of the rest of the pack right now. But you kind of look at this intersection between 4th and 11th, let's say. 7 points between them all. It sounds like a lot, but when you've got pretty much 6 or 7 teams all fighting there. I mean, if you look between Preston and Swansea, for example, that is 5 teams there. You've got Preston, Bristol, Millwall, Cardiff, Blackburn, and Swansea, all on 53 points, and between 56 and 53 even. Look at a club like Millwall, for example, still fighting for a playoff spot.
They annoy me, Millwall, because do you know, like we talked about how everyone else has a really good squad, but they're always failing. Millwall have a really underwhelming squad, yet they've managed to kind of pick themselves up, and they've not been in trouble for a long time, and they've kind of solidified themselves as a championship team with their style of football. I worried when they got rid of their manager, that I can't bloody remember the name of, Neil Harris. Yeah, I worried because I thought he was the only one who could implement that style of play and get the best out of his players. Well, I was proved wrong. But I'd like to see out of all them Brentford, because I predicted them at the start of the year to go up, because I believe they've got a really, really good squad. And they'd be moving into a new stadium in a new season. It'd be nice for them to be in a new league, in my opinion.
Of course, that'd be the last season in the stadium, as you said. As for Millwall, fantastic season for Gary Rowett right now. As we know, previous jobs, including Stoke, haven't really gone to plan at all. So even for Gary Rowett, this is potentially a big season for him to really rejuvenate his career as a manager, because he's been pretty poor. I mean, a couple of other sides, we don't really speak about the Championship a lot on this podcast, because we look at towards the bigger leagues now. But it's interesting because take a team like Preston, for example. Alex Neil as the manager, they're always a very, very consistent side, do tend to linger around the top 10. They sit 6th right now, and Bristol City, a team that, as you said before, have been known to bottle it. Lee Johnson last year, they were in the playoff spots and then got knocked out of them. I think it was the last game of the season last year where they lost their spot, or it might be in the game before or something like that. Is this maybe either Preston or Bristol City's time to finally hit the playoffs? Do we think maybe?
We see that a lot in the Championship. I mean, the perfect example for me is Derby County. Derby County should have been promoted at least 5 times in the past 10 years, because they always get to the playoffs and then drop out, or they get to the playoffs, get to the final, and then lose. So there's always them teams like that. I'd be amazed if Preston did it, because I've been underrating Preston for a long time, and maybe wrongly, because every season I think they're not going to go that high again. It was a one-off where they reached the top 10, and then the year after they'll be just outside the playoffs again, and then the year after they'll be just outside. So I think, personally, I can't see them doing it, because I think there are. Sadly, the Championship has turned into a bit like, look at Fulham and West Brom and look at how much backing they've got. You ain't going to compete with that. So I do think it'll still be them two teams and teams like that, but I'd love to see Preston go up, even though I'm not a massive fan of them.
It'd be interesting to find out what happens in the Championship. Reece Allen's put funny La Liga this. Well, if you wasn't working your life away, Reece, you'd know how the show works. So maybe watch it a bit more when you know how the podcast works. But talking about how the podcast works, we'll go into the next section, which isn't La Liga. So if you're a fan of it, Reece, you might want to wait about another half an hour because we're sort of going to talk about last week's results. Now, of course. The way that this usually works, we make our score predictions and that. Somebody did get one correct one this week. I'll tell you who that is a little bit later on our Bundesliga score prediction table. But we're going to go through our 3 fixtures that we talked about last week, which were the in-form and out-of-form teams. Now, this particular match here was the one that was on the watch-along. The other 2 weren't. Yeah, they weren't. So, Bayer Leverkusen 2, 4 by Munich, which is the game that Rowan watched on Saturday. Now, this was a match that saw plenty of goals, but Bayern Munich, of course, they came out on top. They now are 7 points ahead of second place Dortmund. It didn't go all their way because in the 10th minute, it was Lucas Lario who came in for the injured Havertz, and Volland was on the bench as well, returning from injury. He scored the opening goal in that game. However, by half-time, they were 3-1 down, thanks to goals from Koeman, Goretzka and Gnabry. Lewandowski, he got his 30th goal of the season in the 66th minute before there was a moment of pride towards the end of the game. 17-year-old Florian Wirtz, Bayer Leverkusen, he was able to curl on what was a fantastic consolation goal for his home side. With the loss...
Bundesliga goal scorer as well.
Really?
17 years and 34 days or 64 days, something.
Bloody hell, man. A lovely, lovely goal. But with the loss, Leverkusen, they dropped down to 5th place. But more importantly, for Bayern Munich, I know pretty much the league is pretty much done now. Now, in their game at the weekend, they're now without Lewandowski and Muller. They're both suspended as they play Gladbach on Saturday night. As I said, Rowan, you were the one that watched this match on the watch-along. What did you think of both sides?
Leverkusen looked great at the start. Especially after that first goal, and they looked like they could take the win. But as soon as Bayern sort of found their foot in the game, Leverkusen just didn't look strong. I know Leverkusen picked up a win yesterday over Saarbrücken to get to the final of the DFB Pokal. But obviously you beat Saarbrücken and Bayern. But yeah, the Bayern did look convincing. I think even the second Leverkusen goal, I don't think it even was a Bayern fault. It was just a great finish. Maybe better marking, but you can't really ask for much more than what they gave. But yeah, I mean, they say the league's over. There's a chance, obviously, you are missing your main players. You're playing against a good team as well. Like Alisson Plea and Thuram are both on great form for Gladbach. I think there's a chance Gladbach could pick up a win here, especially without your sort of main goal scoring threat and your main assisting threat.
Well, yeah, they are top goal scorers and assisters in the league.
I swear Plea is suspended because he got sent off on Friday, didn't he? Because they lost.
He should be.
He got suspended on Friday, so he won't be playing against Bayern Munich, which is a shame. Because one team loses their goal scorer, and then you lose yours as well.
I think we talk about this every week. We're like, can this team beat Bayern? Can that team beat Bayern? And I just always say the same thing. No, because Bayern Munich have got the quality over the team. And we saw it literally on display at the weekend. Like, they went down 1-0, and you're thinking, tough place to go by Leverkusen. But to be 3-1 up at half-time and cruising, literally every time we were going to row, and it was for a Bayern Munich attack. They're just so good. And I think even without Lewandowski and Muller, they'll comfortably beat Gladbach.
I think it was at half-time, wasn't it, that Leverkusen had like 2 shots, and they were both on target. But I think Bayern had like 9 or 10 by half-time, something like that.
I think if this was Bayern of early season, when we watched, pretty much when Niko Kovac was in charge, if he was still in charge now and the way that Bayern team were playing, 1, I don't think they'd be top of the league. And 2, I'd start to believe that these teams can do it. Because look at Leverkusen, they went away to Bayern Munich and won 2-0. And that was without Kai Havertz then as well. But this time without Kai Havertz, I never really gave them a chance. With Havertz I did. But without him, you've got to be, everything's got to go right to beat this Bayern Munich side. And I think you're relying on too much.
It was a very tricky game, and as I said, their Leverkusen, they had a great opportunity. A tricky game, but as we talked about on Saturday, at this point, Gladbach had lost, dropped points the weekend as well, and we know other teams around them dropped points as well. Leipzig in a 1-1 draw against Paderborn with that late equaliser from Paderborn's captain in that game, so they dropped points. So even though it's Bayern Munich, they had a good chance to nick some points, but unfortunately they didn't, which was even better news for the next side, Borussia Dortmund, because this was Saturday night's fixture that was played. We talked about this one on the watch along once again. A fantastic fixture. This was on paper two of the most informed sides in the Bundesliga as of right now since the break. It was an unlikely match winner that got the goal. Emre Can, who actually played centre-back in this game, scored a fantastic 57th minute win. It was a lovely goal that he scored to win them the match. He was able to curl it home. It's from just, I think, outside the box. And there wasn't really many key chances for either side. I think there was about 5 or 6 shots on target through the whole game. But for Dortmund, because of all the drop points around them, they stay second. They're now 4 points clear of RB Leipzig, and they look like they're on the home run now to steal the Champions League spot. And as for Hertha Berlin, unfortunately, it looks like their season might be over now. They stay 9th, but they're now 7 points away from a European spot, which there's still a couple of games left. But, of course, because the Bundesliga is a little bit further ahead than the rest of the leagues of world football, I think there's about 4 or 5 fixtures left, I think. So time is of the essence if they do want to try and get a European spot. But in terms of this game, Emre Can, what a finish that was.
It was beautiful, and you know what? It summed up the best of Dortmund, in my opinion. The interlink play with Brandt and the smartness to knock it down for Can again, for him to curl it into the bottom corner. I think me and Kieran, other Kieran, were texting during this game, and we'd bigged this game up as arguably some of the best attacking teams in the Bundesliga, and I don't think the game really relayed that. It was quite poor quality, in my opinion anyway, for long periods. But the team that had the better quality on the day did win, because it was just a wonderful goal.
I think for me, this shows how far Borussia Dortmund have come. I think if this was Dortmund of maybe 2-3 years ago, they wouldn't have seen out this game like against a tough team where you're going to be back to the wall at some point, you're going to have to attack, and it's a really professional performance. Like you see, Liverpool have got these same sort of results this season where they've just nicked it with a goal. It just shows how far they've come and how professional their team actually is in the way that they train, the way they set up. And Lucien Favre has done an absolutely fantastic job.
We know that last week, of course, even this week, they've still been without Erling Haaland, who's been out injured, and I think he's still going to be out for a little bit longer. I haven't seen much news about him, but in terms of them playing without a striker, they still look quite all right without having a recognised player up top. I mean, I think last week they played Sancho as a striker. I don't know whether they did the same this week off the top of my head, or whether they changed it up. But another player that deserves... Who did they play? Striker?
I think Brandt played striker.
Brandt,
I think so.
Might have changed it up. I'll have a check.
I'm not sure if they play like a sort of system where, do you know, like old school Man City when they used to not play Aguero, but they'd play Silva, Sterling, and Sane, and the two would stay predominantly on the wing.
Spain in the bloody World Cup.
That's the perfect example.
Play a striker.
That's probably a perfect example. Yeah.
Hazard, this is what you were thinking. Hazard and Sancho were practically sort of right forward and left forward, and Brandt was sort of sitting in cam. That makes sense.
And
so like,
kind of allow the 3 players up front to move into the positions they feel necessary.
Yeah, mine says a 3-4-1-2 where like Brandt was a cam, and then Hazard and Sancho were like the kind of the players that were acting as strikers to a certain extent, but are on the far out wings. So they played a good game there. And I mean, as I said, Hertha Berlin now 7 points away from a European spot because of the big win. The big results for Hoffenheim in that the weekend. Do we think they're out? Yeah.
How close are they to 7th?
To 7th, Hertha Berlin.
Mm-hmm.
Let me quickly get it up. Give me 2 seconds. They are 5 points from 7th.
So because if Bayern win tonight and Bayern v Leverkusen is the final, 7th gets Europa as well.
But
if Frankfurt win, then no, they don't.
If Bayer Leverkusen win the Europa League, doesn't it also go down another place? Because they'll be in the Champions League.
That's a good
And
question.
then, does that technically mean then, because if Bayern win the Champions League, does it then go down to 9th?
No.
I'll just check.
Jesus Christ.
I think because all I know is that if Bayern win tonight, that 7th gets it as well. I'm not sure about the Europa League one. That's an interesting question.
Just put half of the league in the Europa League. We'll get like 10th spot for the Europa League at this rate.
I'm pretty sure if Bayer Leverkusen were to finish 5th and to win the Europa League,
I've got it here. So
the team in the next place down, so 8th, would get it.
So it says here on their website, who qualified European competition, with Germany in the top 4, blah, 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 they get the figure. There's a possibility of 5 Bundesliga clubs qualifying for the following year's competition. If a Bundesliga club were to win the Champions League or Europa League and finish outside the top 4 domestically, they would also go into the following season's Champions League. Okay, that doesn't help. The sides finishing 5th and 6th in the Bundesliga standings, in addition to the DFB Cup winners, will gain access to the Europa League. Should the DFB Cup winners have already qualified for Europe via their league position, 7th place in the Bundesliga, consequently earn a place in the second qualifying round of the Bundesliga. This would instead be the entry point for the side finishing 6th, should the DFB Cup winner not finish inside the top 6.
So realistically speaking, then it's up to the top 7.
Yeah.
I can get it.
If Bayern win tonight, because I think if it's Frankfurt that win, because Leverkusen are in it, like it was when we got to the FA Cup final, but we got in the Europa because we were 2nd, but Arsenal had already qualified. So I'm presuming if Frankfurt win tonight, technically Frankfurt have got European football,
which is absolutely mad. I mean, they're sitting 11th right now.
Does that mean if Saarbrücken beat Leverkusen and Bayern won tonight, Saarbrücken would have guaranteed? Wow.
Well, I'm pretty sure you go into the qualifiers.
The second qualifying round. I didn't realise how mad impressive Saarbrücken's run was, because they're in the 4th division and they did win the last 2 rounds on penalties, and that is how you shithouse your way through a cup competition.
I want to say it's equivalent to League 2 sort of teams doing it, but it's probably less than that because there's less leagues. It's probably the equivalent of maybe a Vanarama team.
I'd have said like a Vanarama team, because the quality of the teams towards the 4th division are really, really low down. I think you hit the 5th division and then it's down to just non how we have Vanarama and that. I think it goes to like
the Russian league.
Pretty much.
If you get dropped, you lose professional.
Non-professional. Yeah. So like realistically speaking, then if we're looking at it from that sense now, 5 points away from 7th. If these sides can pray to God that Bayern win tonight, they don't want Frankfurt to win, as you said there. That means Frankfurt would be back in the Europa League once again. If Bayern can win tonight, which obviously we have to find out, it's a cup match, anything can happen. Hertha Berlin are still theoretically in the race, and it's crazy to say this, but bloody Schalke are still in the race then. They're on the same points as Hertha Berlin, 38 points each right now. They'd only need 5 points, Hertha and Schalke, to get the Europa League spot, depending on what happens. So
I think Hertha left it a little too late. Like I'd love them to get Europa League, and the way their form's been since the restart deserves Europa League, definitely. But we need to remember how bad they were at the start, like before this, the investment during the January transfer window. They weren't the same team. So advance this form a month earlier, and I think we would be looking at a team that would be secured European spot already, in that Wolfsburg area. And, Freiburg is still up there. They had a great win over Mönchengladbach. They seem to be the little train that could, who keep going on, even though their squad doesn't look European ready, in my opinion. But so it's a nice little race for European football.
It's keeping things a little bit more open and exciting. Chris put something just a little bit different. He said, what's your thoughts on Atletico Madrid's president saying Atletico Madrid should be given the Champions League trophy if Champions League cannot be completed because they beat the holders Liverpool? Benaldo put, it doesn't work like that. Atletico, Priestman, if Champions League doesn't resume, I say void the year.
Yeah, I thought he was joking. Like,
I'll tell you what, he's got a shout in fairness.
I'm not going to lie.
I can see where, like, you've beaten the winners. Like...
The holders.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's true, but then it's the equivalent of saying, well, if, let's say, if Rotherham beat Man City in the 3rd round of the FA Cup, does that not technically mean we should win it because we beat the winners?
If the cup doesn't carry on, yes.
If the cup doesn't carry on, I'd void it.
Yeah,
that
I
makes
agree.
it boring in the history records, doesn't it? Because it'd be like winner, winner, winner. Oh, nothing there.
Liverpool have been the bloody champions for 2 years in a row, not having that.
It reminds me of when I used to be in school and I used to have to defend myself about Hull, and I used to be like, yeah, but Hull beat Man United and Man United beat this team, so technically we're better than Barcelona. It's never true.
I mean,
Say that though, technically Oldham are Champions League winners.
We've done the Champions League winners, Liverpool, so give us the trophy.
It works in multiple ways, but I think as Bernaldo said, you'd have to avoid it. I can't really say no. Well, we'll just give it to Atletico Madrid. But I mean, it's an interesting point that they've put up there. But we'll move on to the last game of last week's results, which was the lowest performing teams since the break of the coronavirus in the Bundesliga. Now, this was a game that both sides kind of realistically needed the 3 points. I think, of course, considering the situation we've talked about now, had Schalke picked up 3 points, they could have been well and truly kickstarting their season off again for a Europa League spot. And of course, Union Berlin, which we've talked about quite a lot over the last couple of weeks, are fighting for survival. Robert Andrich, he opened the scoring in the 11th minute, decent little goal, which gave Union Berlin a sign of hope that they could go and win 3 points to carry on their season and try and survive. However, if you haven't seen the goal, it's probably up there for the standout goal since the return of the Bundesliga. On loan, English fullback John Joe Kenny, which we know is from Everton, with an absolutely quality long-range strike from about 20-25 yards out, smashed it home before half-time to get Schalke a very important point. Union Berlin, they sit 14th. They're 4 points away from the relegation player spot. And as we talked about a moment ago, Schalke, they currently sit 10th. Now, I originally put not really a great deal to play for, but now, realistically speaking, they're still only 5 points away from a potential European spot. So somehow, they're still in it, even though they've lost pretty much this entire calendar year so far. Union Berlin, I don't know if anybody watched this game specifically.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I'll ask you two boys. Union Berlin, did they miss an opportunity to take 3 points, or was this a massive point for them and Schalke did better?
I don't know about you, Kieran Dillon. I'd say they missed a chance to win because apart from that John Joe Kenny chance, Schalke offered nothing. Like, every time I watch them, for example, you'd see this as a point and you think, maybe they're on the upwards turn. From what I saw, I didn't see that. I just thought John Joe Kenny has rescued a point in the first half for a team that offered absolutely zero. And I'm glad that Union Berlin didn't win, because then if they would have won, they wouldn't have gone down. And I still believe they're going down. So at least that's still intact. But I don't know about you, Kieran, but I think Union Berlin deserve to win.
I think I said last week that when I watched Schalke, they just looked disjointed, and like the team had just never played together before. And I just saw shades of that again. Like, the goal that Union Berlin scored was so easy. It was a good finish by who was it who scored?
Andrich.
It was a really good finish by Andrich. And yeah, John Joe Kenny's goal was good, but in my opinion, the goalkeeper should be getting to that quicker.
I mean, it was a quality strike.
I think we disagreed on that, didn't we? I was saying wonderful strike. This was a bit like when me and Josh disagreed on, I think it was Thuram who scored after 15. A player who scored after 15 seconds. When it was the keeper, and I said good fit. Maybe I'm just a striker lover. I don't know. I think there was a point made during the broadcast which it didn't come to me, and I realised how stupid Schalke are. They sold Briel, Donald and Bolo to Mönchengladbach, and then they got rid of Mark Huth midway through the season to Cologne, where he's gone on to score goals. And Schalke look like they haven't got anyone to score goals. So why have they got rid of the players? They can create players. There's never been they got Manuel Neuer. They've obviously created Alexander Nubel as well. And they just get rid of these players after, I think Briel and Bolo never really got a chance because he picked up that injury really early when he started for Schalke. But I don't understand why they were getting rid of the firepower. And yes, they brought in Gregoritsch, but he looks void of confidence. The whole team looks void of confidence, but they don't seem to have an out-and-out goal scorer. They trust in this Turkish kid called Karacic. That's an awful butchering of his name. This 19-year-old Turkish guy, and it's like, yeah, you can believe in him, but he can't play weak. He's not Erling Haaland.
How has David Wagner not been sacked yet?
Well, the important thing to bring up is we talked about last week. However, Hoffenheim sacked their manager 2 days ago, which was very, very bizarre. considering they just picked up some very valuable points in their game against Dusseldorf, and they're still in the fight for the Europa League spots. But they've sacked their manager, and they're now in talks with Florian Kofeld, the manager of Werder Bremen. So whether this is a deal that's organised for after the season's finished, which I think is the most likely thing that they'll do, or whether they try and nick Werder Bremen's manager very late on here, just to pretty much destroy Werder Bremen and send them down.
That's such a knob move. That's such a dick move if they take the manager. It's such a shithouse move.
Is it only me that's not been that impressed by Werder Bremen's manager? Because I know Werder Bremen haven't got the best squad, but I honestly think they haven't really been that good. It's been one good player, I think, in Bittencourt, who's managed to grasp it.
It's been moments of magic, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I remember watching the thing, and he's so optimistic to a point where it becomes annoying.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I remember, and do you know what? I admire it because Werder Bremen are in a really tough spot at the moment, and I don't think any of us believed. It was one thing, we've all got this predisposition, for me anyway, where Werder Bremen have been in the league so long that I kind of just believe they'll get themselves out of this situation. Yet every week, they're not picking up wins, they're struggling to score goals. Davy Selke, not been impressive. Yuya Osako, to me, not been impressive. Rashika, since the restart's been absent. So
Rashika, again, you said moments, like he's had moments, especially in like the first 2 games, he was looking like that man. And then Bittencourt's just stepped it up enough where Rashika hasn't gone to that level that Bittencourt has been playing at. It's like you're doing a relay race. Bittencourt has done the 100 meters in 10 seconds, 11 seconds, but the rest of the team are doing it in 15 and 20. And they all need to be at the same level. I think that's the problem. That's why they are so low down. They don't feel like they're doing it.
The worst part was he was on the bench this weekend, Bittencourt. And maybe it's a tiredness thing.
No, he got injured in the last game and he limped off.
And that explains it, but still, I get why. Actually, Hoffenheim have got rid of their manager, but you see, like David Wagner's been holding on for a thread for God knows how long. I just don't think Werder Bremen's manager is the right replacement. Because
the thing is, Florian Kofeld is a manager to watch, and I think the reason why they're going for him is I think they hope that maybe with a side like Hoffenheim, he can, if he's got a bit more cash under his belt, for example, he can become the next what's the guy's name? Nagelsmann. Now Kofeld is only 37. He's a very, very, very young manager, and he's got a lot of time in him to be able to kind of adapt. I mean, he only really started out as a manager back in 2016, where he managed Werder Bremen's second team, and he signed a new contract last year to run him till 2023. So I feel like maybe for Hoffenheim and looking at him as kind of we'll try him out. He's quite young. Maybe we can mould him into a Nagelsmann type if he's got a bit more cash behind him. But he's an interesting manager.
Go on, Ron, you've got it.
I was going to say, if you're Hoffenheim, do you wait till the season? Because let's say he does keep Werder Bremen up, it'll be tough. But let's say he does. That's going to ignite something extra under him. And then you snap him up after that. And even if they get relegated, you snap up there and say, you've got this brand new project. We saw what you tried to do with Werder Bremen. It didn't pay off, but we believe you've got the passion and the team. We've got the team to do it. Because I feel like it'd be a poor decision to bring him in now, when he is so passionate with Werder Bremen and keeping them up.
It's one of them. It'd be the polite thing to do would be like, we'll let you finish the season.
Yeah.
I feel if I was Werder Bremen, because he's still got the contract, I'd be asking for a hell of a lot of bloody money if you want him right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you, Josh, to the extent he is a young manager, and we're underestimating probably how tough of a job this is to be one of your first jobs.
Is very, very, very passionate about Werder Bremen. Like, if you've got to think his entire... Sorry for, jumping in. His whole life has been around Werder Bremen. They were thinking about sacking him a couple of months ago. Obviously, at that point where it pretty much looked like they were going to go down. But they've been so loyal to him that I think the worst thing would be is if he did leave and he moved to Hoffenheim now instead of the end of the season. I think that would be one of the biggest kickings in the face to Werder Bremen to say, right, I'm off, see you later. Now you're gone.
I think I just don't know what his play style is, to be perfectly honest. Like I can't, because there's not been a definitive moment in a match where I've watched Werder Bremen and thought that's how they play, that's what they do, that's what they're good at. They're not really good at anything. That's a lie. They're good at one thing, and that's defending.
I think one thing that I will defend him for is it's a bit difficult trying to create a play style when he doesn't have a number 9 that's scoring goals.
That's what I was going to say as well.
Oh, sorry. But, like, you know, he's Josh Sargent's another one. He's got him, but, you know, he's not really, he's still young. You can't really rely on him. So I think maybe, I always believe that, you know, I think we spoke about this, Josh, like put a good manager in a small team. Can you do the same job? And I feel like maybe give him a bit more assets to work with, and he might be able to, you know, create a play style. Whereas with Werder Bremen, he's kind of fitting square things into round holes, or whatever that saying is that I don't remember.
Well, I've got his record up here. He's been at the club now for 943 days. He has played 98 matches as the manager, 38 wins, 25 draws, 35 losses. Which is not bad at all. His average goals is 1.64 scored, 1.63 conceded, which is it can be improved on massively. It can be improved on massively. But he's used 42 players, so he does like to really change about his side. He's not bad. I mean, points per match 1.42 out of 48 games is 98 games isn't the best, but for a side that have been struggling for so long, it's not the worst.
I truly believe he doesn't know his best 11, and that kind of backs it up with the 42 thing. I think Werder Bremen is a team full of very similar level footballers, with the outstanders maybe Yuri Pavlenka, but he's a goalkeeper, so he can't really do much when he's in a tough spot. But they lost to Wolfsburg on the weekend when they didn't look impressive, and they could have snuck a 0-0, and I think that's kind of the way they've been hoping to survive, because they can't score. And as Kieran said, they've just got to try and defend.
I think it's a little bit similar to Schalke. Like, they don't have a recognised number 9, but Werder Bremen have got a better defence than Schalke have. That's why they're grinding out these 1-0 wins that they have been a few weeks.
Of course, they're still well and truly in the battle for survival, although it's looking very slim in terms of chances. But now the Port Hoffenheim take Unai Emery. Good evening. Are you still available? I mean, it's interesting because, like, of course, I think if you look at clubs like Hoffenheim, they're not going to get massive managers. But one name that has come out of the hat quite recently saying he wants a job, and a name we've not heard for quite some time, Laurent Blanc. Now, his last job was, of course, I think he was managing PSG. I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago. He was there. It's been a long time since he's had a position. But I think for clubs like Hoffenheim and that, do you think they've really got the money and not the aspirations necessarily, because every club has aspirations to be big, but do you think maybe they don't have the finances specifically to be able to fund a big manager like a Blanc or an Emery? Because Emery's not a big manager, but in the context of football, he's a big manager.
Do you think Blanc wants to come in for a project, though? Or do you think he wants to come into an already sculpted side where he can just get trophies and just anything he wants, really, just at the click of his fingers? Do you think it's that? Do you think he'd be willing to come into a project like Hoffenheim, who were sitting just about mid-table in those Europa League spots, that they could probably, if they pushed, had a good season, got some good football under their belt, maybe push for Champions League?
I think he'd want a project. I think he had that opportunity at PSG. You know, when you've got so much cash, pretty much it's endless. I think maybe he'd want to go down a different route and try and have a project job rather than a big top dog job. Because when you've been out of it for 3-4 years, you're not exactly just going to walk into a job unless you've got a name like Mourinho or Guardiola, for example.
I like the Unai Emery fit because we all maybe get blinded by the fact that he was quite poor at Arsenal. He got to Europa League final, but that second year he was really poor. But when he had hit that Sevilla side, he was at that level where I believe Hoffenheim are. Maybe Sevilla are a bit closer to Europa League, like consistent rather than Hoffenheim. But I think that's kind of a perfect fit. I just don't know whether they've got the finances and the facilities to get him in.
But yeah, it's one of those, isn't it, where it's aspiration and finances that really depicts whether you're able to get somebody in or not of a high caliber. But we'll move on. Of course, as I said, we're gonna have a very, very quick look at the Bundesliga score prediction table. Now, as I said, somebody earlier did get 3 points, and I could tell you, well done, Rowan. It was you. Hit the nail on the head. You're on the board. You got the Dortmund one absolutely spot on. You said 1-0 Dortmund against Hertha Berlin, which means you now have 3 points on the board in terms of the other games. Let me just see if I can very quickly get up the results.
That does not sound like a Rowan prediction.
I've also got the question. How come you've played one less game, Josh?
I haven't changed anything since then because you guys said about the losses thing, so I left it so I could just add the wins on.
At the losses. Chris, the losses, we haven't changed them since the opening weekend.
Yeah, no, because the problem is if I say we've got 3 wins but 45,000 losses, it just doesn't look as good as just putting. I mean, it still looks quite bad saying we've got 7 or 8 losses, but I'll probably change it. I'll just take losses out and leave the wins in terms of points. But there's points still to play for, more importantly.
I'm confused because Kieran D, that's 10 games. Kieran L, that's 10 games. I'm on 10 games. How are you on 9?
No, because it wasn't in terms of points played. It was like matches. So each like MPs each match week. So it's like one match week.
It means if you look at wins losses, everyone's adds up to 10, but yours.
Yeah, we've all played the same amount of games.
Yeah, because I, as I said, that was the first week. I haven't changed it since. So, like in terms of wins, you've all got extra wins, but I haven't changed like the win section because I think. Yeah, do you get what I mean? I think it was like, was it 2 or 3 weeks ago I got my first point?
Chris, you've got a game in hand.
Yeah, there you go. I've got a game in hand. We're playing it next week. But no, Rowan's on the board. It's still all to play for. We've got 3 fixtures that we're going to guess a little bit later on.
What was that?
No context now.
Can't hear you all the way down there.
Well, you know, it's still to play for. Still to play for. We've got a couple of weeks left before it all finishes. So, but Kieran D's leading the lead with 9 points. Kieran L is on 6. Just one more from Kieran L means he's back in it. And then me and Rowan, we're tied on 3 points. So we've still got that to play for. But we'll do our score predictions later on. There's 3 games without any context of the teams. You will literally just have to predict from your knowledge of the Bundesliga so far since we've come back. But before we move on to the La Liga section of the podcast today, you can join us at The Athletic. Now, The Athletic has world-class content creators and writers, including the likes of Oliver Kay and Raphael Honigstein, and they write content, and not just them, a whole host of others, write stuff for football, WWE, NFL, combat sports, any sport they have, you name it, they've got it. You could join us on The Athletic today and get yourself a 50% off your annual subscription, as well as a 7-day free trial. You can use the link theathletic.co.uk/sports corner. The link is in the description as always. Once again, theathletic.co.uk/sports corner. I tell you what, they've got some fantastic WWE content on there. I would highly recommend reading it when you've got the chance to. But that's The Athletic. Links in the description as always. So we move on to games of the week now, which Ron's got a bit of a chest of coffee. All right, Ron?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, all good, right. So games of the week this week is going to be La Liga. Because, of course, La Liga's back now, I thought this week we'll pick 3 fixtures from La Liga. Now, let's be real, the fixtures this week aren't the most standout in terms of games, but there's 2 on there that I think are all right. One of those I just picked out because I needed 3. So the first game is the first game actually back for La Liga, and probably the standout fixture of the week is El Gran Derby, which is between Sevilla and Real Betis. Now, El Gran Derby, it's very tight right now because for the home side, Sevilla, they sit 3rd in La Liga. But Real Sociedad, Getafe, and Atletico Madrid are only 1 or 2 points behind them. So they need a victory to put the pressure on the teams around them. As for Real Betis, pretty much their season is over. They sit 12th right now, 33 points. They're 8 points away from relegation, 12 points away from any of the European spots. So it's very, very tricky for them to pick up points to try and progress to maybe Europa League spot or pretty pretty much just fight for survival. They're sort of on that aspect. Before the season started, their last 5 games, Sevilla won 2, drew 2, lost 1. Real Betis, they won 1, drew 2, lost 2. But of course, form goes out the window, considering these teams have only just come back. And to give you a bit of a stat as well, Lucas Campos, he's Sevilla's top goal scorer this season with 10 goals, while Loren, the Spanish striker, not Loren, he has just signed a contract extension with Real Betis this week. He's their top scorer with 9. Who do we think is going to take the first 3 points home if we see a victory of the season in La Liga?
This is difficult because it's been so long since La Liga. Like, do you know, with the German one, we can kind of make predictions now based on form. In La Liga, we can't do that because it's been so long without football. And some teams will adapt to no crowds better than others. For example, we saw in the Bundesliga, away teams pick up more victories now, apparently. That's become a thing. So it's just really difficult. I'd probably give the edge to Sevilla.
I mean, rule of law would say Sevilla, but I've got a sneaky feeling for Betis.
A sneaky feeling.
I mean, it's got some good players in there. Canales, he's been fantastic for Betis. Nabil Fekir as well, who is probably out injured because that's what he spent most of the last couple of years being out injured.
Not playing, for a good game, to be fair.
It's a derby as well. That's the important thing to include in this. This is a big derby game in the Liga for the first time behind closed doors.
A derby's the same without fans, though. Like, really?
Look at the. I know it's not proper derby, but look at Dortmund Bayern.
I'd say, yeah. But like nowadays, like that game didn't have the same feel. I don't think personally as it would. Obviously, I don't expect them to bring crowds in. That's completely out of the way. But football's not the same. Like, I believe back in the day, do you know when, like, for example, like Liverpool and United or Arsenal and United were at their fiercest, Vieira v Keane. I think you take the crowd away and they'd still both be fighting as hard as they can to pick up the win. I just don't think it's the same nowadays. I think take the crowd away and the atmosphere is just... It'll just be like any other game, I think, personally.
I mean...
Is this a prediction or not? Are we doing predictions?
Yeah, we'll make predictions for this one.
Are these in the official standings?
But these aren't going to be in the official standings, no. We're going to stick with the Bundesliga one for now, but I just thought... Just add it in there.
Because I was loading up the table, that's all I was seeing. Sevilla in 3rd, Real Betis are in 12th.
Yeah, no. How many points are Real Betis on again? Is it 33? Yeah. So their season is pretty much over in terms of being able to fight for something. Because I know, Ron, you've got the table. If you look towards like 5th, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, look at how tight the table is right now. It's really, really close for Sevilla. So they need the win more than anything.
Well, Sevilla on 47, then Sociedad 46, Getafe 46, Atletico 45, and then you got Valencia 42. Like, it's very close. 4 points in it.
It's very tight. As we said, as Kieran perfectly said, it's very hard to predict these games just based on the fact that these clubs haven't played for many months. So it's very hard to analyse in terms of current form and that, just because, quite frankly, there is no current form. And I've put form down for the last 5 games, but it really doesn't mean anything in these circumstances. So, Kieran D, as always, would you like to go first and make your prediction? What are we feeling for this one?
2-2.
2-2? I like that. There we go. Kieran L, what we predicted for this game?
2-1 Sevilla.
2-1 to Sevilla. There we go. So we are predicting some goals. I think 3-1 Sevilla. I'm going to go for. Rowan, what are we feeling for this game?
5-0 Sevilla.
You think there's going to be a drubbing?
It's not going to the table, so I could be as wacky as I want. I don't have to be...
Very true. Very, very true. I mean, as I said, these aren't going to count towards the proper table, just so we can kind of relax it a little bit and have a bit of fun with the Bundesliga. Of course, that's still going on in the background. But we'll go on to our next game, which is Celta Vigo versus Villarreal. Now, I put in my stats last season, both these sides were fighting for survival. In fact, I think they played towards the end of the season, and it pretty much came down to that game to which one of these sides would survive. And miraculously, I think it was Villarreal, which were the team in worse form last year, that literally just survived by a whisker of the teeth. Tables have turned, though, this time. Celta Vigo, it feels like Groundhog Day again. They are currently sat... Well, bizarrely, I've put they're sat 27th in the Liga. They're not. They're sat 17th in the Liga. They're not that bad. They're sat 17th in the Liga right now, 1 point above the relegation zone. But their form before the break was the 4th best in the Liga right now. They had no losses in their last 5. So could they potentially continue their streak on? Who knows? But as I said, form really doesn't mean anything in the current situation. But they face a very, very improved Villarreal side. Standout players this season, Gerard Moreno, who's been fantastic on the right-hand side of the field. He's got 11 goals this season. And the top assist for them is Santi Cazorla, who, of course, has had a lot of injury issues and problems. He's been fantastic for Villarreal this season. He's had 6 assists. As for Celta Vigo, their quality player is Iago Aspas, which, if you'd have said that 4 or 5 years ago, you'd have called me nuts. He's scored 9 goals this season, and he's desperately trying to score as many goals to keep his side up. Do we think Celta Vigo could continue on their hot streak and survive, or will Villarreal continue to try hunting down the top 6?
You know what? I'm going to go for Celta Vigo to win 2-1.
2-1. I like it. What are you feeling about this game, Kieran?
I'm probably going to go 1-1 because I feel like both teams have got game changers. For some reason, when Iago Aspas puts on a Celta Vigo shirt, he's good at football. Like, when he had a Liverpool shirt on, he was god-awful. But for some reason, he changed his career around at Celta Vigo. And I love that Santi Cazorla is truly one of the most feel-good stories in football, and we don't have enough of them sometimes. And he's so 1-1 because I like both teams and some players. Yeah,
no, it's been awesome to see because, I mean, there was the whole idea of him potentially maybe getting a Spanish call-up at some point, which, you know, it was only like a year or 2 ago where he was probably going to retire from his injury in that. But I'm going to go for a 2-0 Villarreal, I think. I'm going to go 2-0 Villarreal. Rowan, what are we feeling for this one? Go wild.
6-4 Villarreal.
6-4 Villarreal, yeah. I like it.
We do have some predictions from early. Sorry, Bernardo went Sevilla 2-1. Chris Welch went 1-1. Reese went 8-2 Villarreal. Bernardo went 2-2. Chris went 2-1 Villarreal. So Celta Vigo equals Iago Aspas FC.
So we've got some interesting predictions. I mean, Rowan 6-4. Do you think maybe someone's going to score a hat trick, Rowan?
Oh yeah. Who does score a hat trick for Villarreal?
I've got a feeling. Trying to think of their centre backs just to be as wacky.
No, not Santi doesn't get it.
Bacca, I like it. Right.
Bacca
hat trick. I'm going to put in brackets. If Bacca scores a hat trick, then there's going to be limbs in here. So Bacca hat trick there. I like it. The final fixture. I think we had to pick out one of the top 2 sides because La Liga's back, and I picked out Barcelona. But they're playing off against Mallorca now. The last 3 times these sides faced each other, there's been, I think, about 14 or 15 goals. Yes, they've pretty much all gone to Barcelona. Now, Mallorca, they've not found things easy since we promoted to the Liga, but balance is still well and truly in their hands right now. They're 3 points is all they need to get out of the relegation spot. Of course, Celta Vigo 1 point above them as it currently stands. But for the first match day back, they have got to play Barcelona, who are looking to win the league for the 3rd season in a row. And they must win this game, of course, because only 2 points behind them are Real Madrid, who are desperate to win the title for the first time in what feels like forever. Messi, he is looking likely to be fit for the game and will play some part in the match, even if it's not for the full 90 minutes. Of course, the Argentine, it's the yearly thing, isn't it, really? He leads the leagues for goals and assists. 19 goals and 12 assists for the little magician, as he gets called. As for Mallorca, their main star player this season has been Ante Budimir, the Croatian striker. Has got 9 goals for the home side. And a player you might remember, blast from the past, Ki Sung-young, formerly of Newcastle. He signed a contract a couple of months ago to play for the club. There was a couple of issues with it, and that, of course, contracts expiring. He's going to be playing for them, which will probably make absolutely no difference in this game. But I thought I'd just bring it up as some form of stat to give Mallorca fans some slight belief. So I put, could this be the perfect time to play Barcelona and Corja, who's shot? Pessimism or optimism? What are we going for, boys?
Realism. I'll say this every
idea.
It's like Can anyone else see anything but a pure destruction? Because I honestly can't.
Yeah.
Of Barcelona, absolutely.
Yeah, I can see Barcelona getting played off the park by Mallorca and Ki Sung-young. Ki Sung-young, the talisman in the midfield. Bit like Sebastian Rode, but the Korean one. No, it's going to be...
I mean, it's...
To me, a walk-in park. 5-0 to Barca.
Yeah, I was just about 5-0.
That was my scoreline.
Okay. Right, so 5-0 to Barca has gone. So what are we going for Kieran now?
4-0 to... no, 5-1. Mallorca's going to score. Go on, Mallorca.
I kind of thought you were going to say 5-1 Mallorca there.
No,
I got a little bit excited.
Oh, no, this is going towards...
I'm going to go... Oh, you just cut off there slightly. Did you say a different score?
No, I said it doesn't go towards the table, so you might as well say 5-1 Mallorca. So I'm going to hand it to Rowan because he's optimistic, because he'll probably do it.
I'll tell you what, I'll let Rowan go first. Rowan, what are you going to go for?
1-0 Mallorca.
That'll do.
I think
cut off there again. I don't know whether my internet's playing
1-0 Mallorca.
1-0 Mallorca. I like it.
It's doable. We haven't seen Bayern.
Cheers, lad.
Barcelona. So, there's a chance. When there's a chance, there's always a chance.
I'm going to go 3-1 Mallorca.
Love to see it.
I think Budimir is going to score 2. Kissing is going to score a bicycle kick. No, if I was going realistic...
And there's going to be a Newcastle tattoo underneath it.
And then Jonas Gutierrez is going to appear out of nowhere. I'm going to, if I was being realistic, I'd say 5-2 to Barca, but I'll take a punt and say 3-1 Mallorca just because it has no correlation to anything whatsoever. But in terms of Bundesliga score predictions, of course, to keep that table running on the side, I picked out 3 fixtures as always for this one. 1 game on Friday, 1 game on Saturday, 1 game on Sunday. No stats, no context. We know how the Bundesliga working right now, so you should all roughly know where teams are and how they're doing. So game number 1 on Friday was Hoffenheim versus RB Leipzig. 2 teams that are not been doing too bad. They both dropped points at the weekend. That's all I'm going to give you. KD, what are we feeling for this one?
Which game was it?
Hoffenheim versus RB Leipzig.
2-1 to Leipzig.
2-1 Leipzig. Keep it out.
3-1 Leipzig.
3-1 Leipzig. I'm going to go for a 1-1. I think, let's see, Leipzig's drop some more points. Rowan?
Before I decide to just make my predictions, we missed some comments. Aspas may as well be player manager at Celta Vigo. Bernardo went Barca 6-0. Chris Welch went Barca 3-1. Reese went 6-0 Mallorca. Ansu Fati for the hat-trick. Fortnite Vidal makes his return. This is the predictions that actually matter. I'm going to go 1-0 Leipzig.
1-0 Leipzig. False 9 Vidal. Who knows? Maybe we might get false 9 Vidal back.
Josh, you might need to change the PowerPoint.
Oh, no, it's all right. I haven't got any slides made for this one.
The
next one on Saturday is the game that we were talking about just off stream that we think is going to be quite a fun little game. Hertha Berlin versus Frankfurt. These sides are very interesting to watch. Hertha Berlin been quite good this season. Frankfurt been very iffy, but they've scored quite a lot of goals quite recently in games. Of course, had that 3-3 draw a couple of weeks ago. What do we feel for this one, Kieran D?
2-2.
2-2. Kieran L.
Honestly, fuming that it's not Paderborn Werder Bremen that we're predicting, to be honest with you. So I'm going to go with 1-1.
1-1. I'm going to go for a 2-0 to Hertha Berlin. And Robin, what are we feeling for this?
Well, who Hertha playing against? Sorry, I blanked out for a second.
They're playing against Eintracht Frankfurt.
Oh, right. Hertha 1. Hertha 1-0.
1-0 Hertha. There we go. We'll see what some of the comments say in a moment. Because the other game is indeed Paderborn versus Werder Bremen that we're predicting. So you've got your wish there. Of course, both of these sides are fighting for survival in the Bundesliga as it stands right now. It's safe to say that. I think, is it this weekend Paderborn could be relegated if they lose?
I don't want to talk about it.
I think it's very, very close to them being relegated.
How many games left? They've played 30. There's 18 teams. 4 more games left.
This week, I think.
It might be
next week.
Sad times.
There you go. They can live to fight another day, and if they get a victory, live to fight another day after that. Paderborn versus Werder Bremen. I'll come to Kevin L this one first.
Yes, it's going to be 5-0 to No, I'm going to go with 2-0 Paderborn.
Unfortunately, I have to go for no, I'm joking. 2-0 Paderborn. There we go. I like that. Kieran D, we got the same optimism for Paderborn, or are we going Werder Bremen?
0-0.
0-0.
Oh, you can't do that to me.
That's exactly what I was going to say, 0-0. So I'm going to go 1-0 Werder Bremen. I'll try and go for the 3 points. We've got to at this stage. Rowan, what are we feeling for this one?
3-0 Werder Bremen.
3-0 Werder Bremen.
No. 3-1 Werder Bremen.
3-1. Okay, we'll change that. There we go. 3-1 to Werder Bremen. Has anybody got any predictions in the chat for the Bundesliga ones?
Hoffenheim, Chris Welch's gone Hoffenheim and Leipzig to draw. Bernardo's gone Leipzig to win 3-1. Chris has gone for Hertha to draw with Frankfurt, and Bernardo's gone for Frankfurt 2-0. Chris has gone Paderborn, Bremen 1-0. Clean sweep of 1-0 for me for Bundesliga games.
So we've got a clear, evident pattern there of certain results for some people. But they are our predictions for this week. Of course, we'll find out what happens in next week's episode of the podcast. But in the meantime, there is loads of other content that you can check out on our channel, including the very recently new uploaded Wrestling Corner. It's now not going to be live. It's going to be pre-recorded. What did you talk about this week, Rowan?
What did we talk about? It was a takeover at the weekend, so we talked about that. Really, it was not. I don't know what the word is. Not very impressed with it in terms of it wasn't up there in the best takeovers. But if we talked about that, we gave our opinions on that. What else did we talk about? We talked about we're very AEW heavy this week, as we had some good matches.
So that is the Wrestling Corner. If you want to check that out, there'll be a link in the description, and it is the last video that was uploaded. At some point this week, I'm not going to say when it is, because it usually changes. We have the NFL Corner. What day is it this week?
Friday.
Friday, there we go.
Oh, wait, I thought we were getting one on Monday.
Do you know what? We'll move on. It's definitely Friday this week. The schedule with the NFL Corner is spontaneous, to say the least. So
that's what makes it so exciting.
There you go. You know, we will pop up on your subscriptions whenever we feel necessary. No, we're going to do Friday because just schedules with stuff we've got to do and stuff we've got sorted with family members and other things. Because now, you know, Friday is the day because Will does have work, so we've got to work around that as well. And sometimes we're just busy, but it will be Friday.
You want it.
Yeah, exactly, and it'll be exactly what we was going to talk about last week. So if you want to know what's coming up, check last week's podcast for what I talked about. That's coming this week.
And you can even look back at last week's predictions as well.
Yeah,
there you go. So that is the NFL Corner. It's on Friday this week. Friday.
Yeah.
Whenever it is, we don't know, but it's Friday. So keep F5 in. Keep F5 in. Eventually it'll be up on there.
Really
there we go.
Because I'm not awake early. But like midday. There you go, midday.
Is it Wrestling Corner early or football podcast early?
Do you know what? I'm going to go with middle early.
He's making his own time zone.
It's because he doesn't know when the Wrestling Corner is.
I'd like him to be spontaneous and just do one at like 7 a.m.
Yeah, do you know what?
Just out of nowhere.
I'm going live at 5:30 a.m. just because I'm still awake. I wake up early.
But that is the NFL Corner. You keep your eyes out for that on Friday. And the other thing that's going on in the background over the next month, you can keep your eyes out because tomorrow night we have 24 players from across the world taking part in a virtual Euro 2020 PES tournament. We're going to have the live draw tomorrow, 7 p.m. UK time. You do not want to miss it. I am currently right now as we speak, not as of right now as we speak, but don't take it literally. I am doing the playoffs not as we speak. You know what I mean. I'm trying to find a different word. I'm doing the playoffs in the background, so you'll find out who's gone through on the playoffs tomorrow. And of course, for everybody that's taking part, you'll find out your nation of who you'll be the manager of throughout the tournament. It takes place between June the 12th and July the 11th, so keep your eyes out because the winner gets a cash prize. That all starts tomorrow night with the draw 7 p.m. UK time. It'll be live on Twitch, guaranteed. I'm going to try and get live on YouTube as well, but if not, the video will go live about 9 o'clock UK time. So keep your eyes out for that. It's going to be a fun tournament. But that is it for episode today of the Top Corner podcast. I hope you all have enjoyed it. We'll be back next week. We'll be talking about more Bundesliga, more La Liga. And I think, when's the Premier League back? Is it the 20th?
No, next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. Oh, there you go. We'll have the Premier League as well. When's Serie A back?
This weekend.
This weekend.
Coppa Italia's back this weekend. So.
This weekend, I'm pretty sure.
Perfect. So we'll have plenty of fixtures to talk about. We'll probably go back to the normal format and get a whole host of different games in there to talk about. We might even chuck Coppa Italia in there as well because there's some quite tasty fixtures. But to end off, Chris said just doing podcasts while sending PES playoff games dedicated aloud. I'm not. Don't take the word seriously. But once again, thank you ever so much, Kieran D, Rowan, and Kieran L, as always.
Josh, you need to say. Are you going to say what games we've got on the weekend? Are we?
Yeah.
Actually, it's a good point that there will be a watch along which will be going on. 2:15. What are you going to start 2:15 usual time?
Yeah. Is it 2:30 kickoff? Yeah.
2:30 kickoffs. The way we're going to work it is because I have the Euro tournament going on and kickoffs are at 3. The boys are going to do the watch along games, but they're going to pick their games because it makes it easy. To be quite frankly honest, we're getting towards the end of the season. Let's let the lads pick out the games that they want to play. So Kieran L is of course watching his incredible Paderborn side. Rowan, are you watching?
I've got Dortmund
Dusseldorf, and Kieran D, you are watching
Hertha and Frankfurt, I'm pretty sure.
So some good games to keep an eye out for. They'll be live 2:15 Saturday on the YouTube channel for that. So keep your eyes out for the watch along. It'll be good fun, and hopefully there's some goals for Paderborn. Let's get them a win. Come on, lads. We want a big victory for Paderborn. We want to keep them up. Do you know what I mean? Let's have an extra week of Paderborn before they go down. So thank you very much as always. I said thank you, Kiwi D, Rowan, and Kieran as always.
Cheers,
and we'll
Josh.
see you next week. Thank you very much.